You are live. Woo! Okay, folks, this is Laura May Lindo. I am your MPP for Kitchener Center. And we have officially gone live with People in My Hood, a philosophical podcast. I am so super hyped about this podcast. I just love the fact that for like 2 years, I've been hounding my team saying, I want a podcast. I want a podcast. And it took a pandemic to get me a podcast. But you know what? It's good because so many people spend time online now, doing things and having conversations that they wouldn't necessarily have. And I'm like pleased to have an opportunity to share with you that are watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching the replay. Um, some of the interesting people that I get to meet in my capacity. So this philosophical podcast cannot begin without beginning it right. And so, with that, I start with my land acknowledgement. I am hosting this podcast from my home in Kitchener. This land has been held down, cared for, loved, and stewarded by the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the neutral people. Oftentimes, when we do these land acknowledgements, we sort of stop at we acknowledge the land, we Google essentially to find out where it is that we're situated, but we don't do the hard work. And I've been told from elders in the community that part of what we have to do is start making a real connection between the conversation that you're about to have and the fact that you're hosting it on stolen land. And this conversation that we are about to have is it's a tough one. So we are going to have a little discussion for the next like 30 minutes or so with you, David Schilling. I'll tell you more about David in just a moment. Talking about folks that are navigating ODSP and OW and the realities of being forced to, I would argue, David, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but being forced to rely on social systems that are supposed to be there to help you, but do not provide you enough to thrive. I think Indigenous community members are a group of folks around us that often are forced to rely on these systems, and then they are then villainized for being reliant on the systems that the state has put in place specifically to keep them down. That, my friends, is what oppression looks like in our systems. And that is also why I try and use my position of power and privilege and influence as a member of provincial parliament to push back in creative and fun ways, like with this fancy little People in My Hood, a philosophical podcast. For those that are tuning in right now, you can put comments in. Hi, Emma. It's lovely to have you here with us. Put comments in, questions, all of that fun stuff. I get to have like a super cool conversation with a new friend, somebody that I would like to be my bestie. Before we went live, I was like, come on, David, we can be besties. And
We
David said
got this.
yes,
Oh, of
right?
course. Of
David
course.
said
We
yes.
got this.
So listen, folks, this is like super cool. David is a local photographer, a professional YouTuber, a mental health advocate, and he is with me today to discuss the lack of supports for people that are living with disabilities. David is also much more than that, just in case you're wondering. David is hilarious. If you have
Just a
not
little bit.
tuned in, just a little bit of hilarity. If you have not tuned in to watch David's podcast, you must do that. Um, uh, it is Chillin' with Shillin'. Yeah?
Chilling with Shilling.
Woo! And it is
Woohoo.
so good. It
Thank
makes
you
me
so
like
much.
it is really, really good. It is hard conversations, real conversations, but there is a joy with which you approach your life and the challenges that you are facing, and a desire to use your experiences to make life easier for those around you. That kind of joy and
Absolutely.
love and care and is leadership, leading with love, that I just want you to know I see that. I
Well,
see that,
thank you.
David.
And for the record, it's not good to make somebody cry in the first 4 minutes of their podcast. So uh,
Not
that's
bad.
just
Tone it down, Lindo. Tone
just
it
a
down.
little bit. Just a little bit.
Okay, so here we go, folks. We are going in. Ready?
Let's do it.
We're going in. Okay, so my very first question, and
Hmm.
for those that are just tuning in for the first time, it's all about putting what we want into the universe, like visualizing what we want. You can't do that unless you're very real and clear about what the issues are. So, my very first question for you, David, is this:
Mhm.
where are the gaps in the system that you have had to access that are making your life a bit more difficult than it needs to be? Over to you, David.
Ooh, that's a bit of a loaded question. It started for me, with honestly my family doctor. It started by downplaying my mental health struggles that I was going through at the time,
Hmm.
and I just chalk it up to a lack of knowledge. But instead of instantly referring me to a specialist, to somebody that knows um, a little bit more about mental health challenges and things, I was just sort of downplayed and was just take this medication and go about your day. And that's just it just that snowballed into a lot of other challenges and
Hmm.
hardships through the healthcare system that I had to navigate.
And David, before,
Yes.
sorry,
No,
before
no, go
you,
ahead.
no, no, I want you to keep going, but I
Mhm.
just want to pause you for a second because I have a lot of folks that contact my office that are navigating ODSP and OW
Yes,
and navigating our healthcare system. And one of the things that um, I often think, like I connect the dots between different people that call in, and I think what you just described is not holding community with care and love and compassion. Like throwing medication your way and saying, "Go on with your bad self," is not necessarily holding you with the care and compassion that you need. And sometimes on the flip side, I hear from healthcare professionals, it's because they don't have the supports in town. So, like,
for sure.
you know, but
Uh,
at the same time,
mhm.
you should be held with care and compassion. So, talk to me a bit about that.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I was eventually sent to, or I had a referral to be sent to CAMH, the Center for
Hmm.
Addiction and Mental Health, where my psychiatrist there did end up absolutely saving my life, through care and compassion
Yep.
and understanding as well. But there again, that took me 8 months. It was an 8 month wait list of just sitting and hoping I can make it far enough to be able to get that care.
Yeah.
Uh, so it is hard, and I'm not trying to take away from what my doctor was going through. I'm absolutely certain that, that he had far too many, patients in his care because of a lack of, help for doctors and everything
Hmm.
like that. It's just one thing just snowballs into another, into another, into another, and, um for a lot of us, it feels like you're functional enough, you can kinda just get back to it,
Yeah.
and that for me led to a serious mental breakdown, um, and I wasn't able to work, still not able to work, which kinda led me into my, journey through ODSP.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Can you talk to me a little bit about the ODSP journey? Like for those, again, a lot of people that are watching and that sort of follow me on
Mhm.
social don't necessarily know what that journey is like. And
For
they make
sure.
assumptions that because it's there to help, that it's actually perfect and
Hmm.
fine.
Um Right. So to get on ODSP, you need a referral. In my case, I went to my psychiatrist, my specialist,
Hmm.
who referred me, or who signed all the necessary paperwork, and I was able to get onto to disability. I get $1,072 a month. That includes $400 for housing. Uh, Thankfully, I am absolutely blessed. I live with a very supportive family, so I'm living under my parents' roof,
Hmm.
with a room and board situation for me. So it ends up working out to um, thankfully
Yeah.
to my benefit. But I believe the maximum you can get while on disability is 1,189 for a single human without any
Hmm.
codependence for them.
Hmm.
Um, and with the way housing is right now, with the
So
way food costs is going up, I read an article tangent. I warned you
no,
pre-show
no,
about these tangents, but
you
I read
go
an
in there.
article where food costs is expecting to be about $15,000 next year.
Yes.
Um, I get just under $13,000 a year,
Yeah.
so I'm expected to feed myself next year with not enough money, and that doesn't include shelter, that doesn't include any other bills that might have come up back when I was healthy. I'm still paying off
Yeah.
living debts and things like that from when I was a healthy working person, and yeah, so it's impossible to keep up
It's
with
impossible.
it's impossible to live. I know of two people myself personally that live homeless. They choose to live on the streets because at least they can afford meals.
Ugh.
And and then, like you mentioned,
We
with
need
our
to
First
pause.
Nations, absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
no, no. We need to pause there just for a moment, only
Hmm.
because folks, David is dropping nuggets. David is dropping nuggets. These are important pieces of the puzzle, right? And I want us to take our time to go through them because more and more people are aware of the housing crisis right now. You said $400 for
That's what I personally am
that's what,
allotted for my housing costs. Yes.
and that is not okay because the entire amount that you are getting a month still isn't sufficient to have bachelors and one bedrooms in town right now.
No, and assisted housing,
Yeah,
um, it's anywhere between a 7 to 10-year wait list for a bachelor apartment. Um, if you're living with a family, if you have children of your own and you need more than one room, you're looking at a 12
yeah,
plus year wait for assisted housing. So again, we're sort of
no,
left to good luck. Uh,
yeah.
I hope. Uh,
And when so
mhm,
I'm gonna jump us ahead because
absolutely, for
part of
sure.
part of what where we started in this conversation is what is allocated to you because of what you have navigated, right?
Correct.
And I hope that this is okay. I swear everything I'm saying is from a place of love and care and compassion,
Absolutely,
but
for
I am
sure.
just I feel blessed that you found the tools and had the people around you and the opportunities to get to the navigating part because not
Mhm.
everybody can, right?
No, no,
Um,
absolutely.
and so that's the starting point of this. But then we got this pandemic, right? Like the pandemic hit,
Mhm.
and what supports changed for you? What happened?
Um, on a personal level, it I got to a point where I was no longer able to keep up with my debts. I was going to just lose my entire livelihood, my sanity, and everything else.
Mhm.
So I was forced to get a job as an essential worker, um, which was okay for a while, but there's a reason I'm on disability or supposed to be on disability,
Yeah,
and it sort of it caught up with me. Financially, we got, I believe, two payments of $100 since the start of the pandemic, and that was to cover PPE and things.
yeah,
And um, as somebody who lives with an immune compromised mother, it's very difficult to buy the necessary um, protective equipment needed to be able to go out and to see society and to live society. And
yeah.
again, I'm very fortunate. I'm just speaking from personal experience. I know many people who are on disability are immune compromised themselves and they can't
Mhm.
leave their home. They have a hard time leaving their home. So pandemic anxiety for them just skyrockets,
Yes.
and they can't afford grocery. Um,
Mhm.
what's the word I'm looking for? Delivery. There we go.
Yes.
They can't afford grocery delivery or anything, so they have to risk their life to get food that they can't afford.
No, no, no. And again, these are these moments where these are hard conversations, folks, but they're real. Like, so many people were struggling well before the pandemic. The pandemic hit, put a whole other curveball into the mix. And the system, as far as I'm concerned, the system let so many people down. It let so many people down.
If I can,
Yeah.
the federal government allotted healthy people $2,000 per month to survive. That's what the federal government
Yep.
has decided. The minimum livable income needed to survive in Canada is $2,000.
Hmm.
Um, my support didn't adjust any.
Yeah.
On any level. In fact, I didn't qualify for CERB because I was already on a social assistance of any kind.
And so there's another moment of another nugget for those that are watching and for those that are willing and able to use their voice and their positions to help advocate for change. Because everybody was okay with this notion of the $2,000 for everybody without ever thinking about people that had never gotten to the $2,000 a month mark before this pandemic. Nothing changed in our systems to be able to bring that amount up so that folks could thrive. Like, we shouldn't be fighting for systems that just let people struggle, right?
Mhm.
Just sit with that for a little bit. Like, what is the point of having systems that we say we're going to help you, but at the end of the day, all you're doing is struggling. And every time you reach out to something else for help, which was something else that I was hearing, and you tell me, David, if you were hearing
Mhm.
this as well. Um, there were some folks, I think, that tried to get CERB or qualify for whatever kinds of supports that were coming, and then their disability amount was being clawed back, or their other social assistance amounts were being clawed back. I know we were fighting against that, so some of it
Sure.
stopped. But at the beginning, it was just natural to just say, no, you aren't allowed to have enough to survive.
I don't know. I didn't try once I saw that, I was ineligible, I didn't fight or try.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, but I do know that, just in general, as soon as we start working, we're allotted $200 of free income, and then our, disability gets reduced by 50 cents for every dollar we make. So again, there's no real chance for us to get ahead at all.
The other thing that this makes me think about, and again, now I'm going into a tangent,
Please do.
but I, I'm having this conversation with you, and I'm also having this conversation with a number of other people that contact
Absolutely.
my office or that I meet when I'm out and about doing stuff. Um, Many people they want to feel fulfilled, like they're people. They want to
Mhm.
feel fulfilled, they want to feel cared for, they want to know that they're giving back to community, all of this kind of stuff. um, I don't know how one is to get to that place if every single day is a struggle to know whether or not you can buy food, whether or not you can afford your shelter, whether or not. Then you add the pandemic, and that level of stress requires you to look to the leadership that exists around you and ask them to do better. And so I'm going to ask you
Mhm.
through me to ask them to do better. What is it that you would want to see in leaders, to change these systems to make it so that folks that are in need of support can thrive, not just survive? What would you want to see from folks like me?
Well, just as a bit of an aside, we're not
Yeah,
even surviving. With the new legislation on, I'm going to be a little bit dark for a second, but with
yeah.
the new legislation on MAID, being expanded to allow people with mental illness, coming into effect before any sort of, um, any talk whatsoever about social assistance to allow us to live.
Hmm.
It's disheartening. We feel alone and given up on.
Yeah.
We feel like, a an inefficiency in the budget and very little more. That's what that we don't feel human, unfortunately. We like most of us have, myself included, have GoFundMe's because we can't afford to stay afloat. So we don't have dignity.
Hmm.
So for us, short term, something that allows us to have a little bit of dignity. With that comes financial assistance. Unfortunately, we are a
Hmm.
very resourceful group of people,
Hmm.
trying to function and navigate everyday life with whatever struggles and challenges we face, whether they're physical or mental. And so, just a little bit of breathing room to be able to get back to a place where we feel human ourselves.
Hmm.
Um,
Um,
that will let us go a very long
I don't
way
have it.
to becoming functioning members of society again, which is what we wanna do. We wanna be able to heal and get better and be
Yep.
able to explore the streets without people staring at us and feeling like we're leeches on society that doesn't seem to care.
You know what? I last year I thought I had a copy of it here, but I can't find it offhand. But oh wait, it might be here. Hold on. I'm looking behind this thing. Oh,
Absolutely.
it might be here. It might be here. It might be here. Look at this. It's here. Okay.
Amazing.
Let me see if I can find this for you. I'm going to show people uh, what I have here in my little fancy packet. Here is good. This one's a good one. Okay. So last year,
Hmm.
um, at the beginning, I think it was, no, it would have been around February or March. Um, I actually put out this little note. It's a dear neighbor note. And
Hmm.
you may or may not have seen it, folks, and we can share it and circulate it again. But it was talking about the need to invest urgently in mental health supports. Because again, there were these gaps prior to the pandemic, then the pandemic hit, and now everybody is in need of support. And so those that were like waiting on these long wait lists, those wait lists are getting longer and longer and longer. So
Hmm.
people would mail these little cards into me and let me know that they support my fight for these investments. And yesterday I was sending some thank you cards. Yes, folks, I am behind in sending the thank you cards, but you will receive them because they are being written. And I was reading one of them, and this person wrote in and said to me, you know, it would be really helpful for folks, basic income, like the thinking again about a universal basic income, which to me ties back to where we started, David, because
Hmm.
when the federal government decides $2,000 a month is what people need, but we've got systems, social systems, government systems that do not provide that bare minimum, there is a problem, there is a disconnect. And
Absolutely.
so I, as you were talking, I kept thinking about that. I don't know if you've ever talked to anybody about basic income or your thoughts on that. Do you want to go there? Is that like,
Sure.
yeah, let's
I
talk about
know
that.
very little, to be very honest, about a UBI.
Hmm.
I know that it helps people far beyond those who are on disability or on Ontario Works, things like that.
Hmm.
It helps people who are in a fast growing automation industry,
Hmm.
things like the car making industry. The auto industry is becoming a lot more automated, fewer need for actual workers of good paying union jobs. So
Hmm.
having some sort of a UBI set in place would definitely help more than just us, and I'm all for it. My only concern, and again, this is just because a lack of understanding of how UBI works on my part, but uh, the healthcare that we are allotted while on disability
Hmm.
is not great, but it's helpful. My medication costs about $170 a month for generic medication,
Yeah.
and that for me, luckily, is covered under ODSP.
Hmm.
Many people don't have their medical coverage, or sorry, their medications covered. So again, it would be something that I am definitely all for pursuing. I just want to know how the medical holes would be filled
Yeah.
in.
You know what? That is so, so important. Because again, you can, when you're trying to revamp a system that is broken,
Hmm.
sometimes it's band-aid upon band-aid upon band-aid.
Yes.
So if we're going to create something new so that we can substitute these band-aids for something that actually addresses the root causes of poverty and the root causes
Hmm.
of, mental health issues that folks are navigating and such, then we've got to make sure that we pay attention to all of those pieces. And so that is something that we will definitely look into. My office is in the midst right now of doing some research into
Hmm.
into UBI and figuring out what it is that we can do to support some of the calls that are coming federally from one of my very, very good friends and colleagues, Leah Gazan, out in
I have
yeah.
I
Have
don't
you
know if
heard
you
of
can I don't know if you can read it. It's gonna be out of focus, you won't be able to read it, but I have her name written down in my book
what?
specifically because she's
Leah!
been, talking a lot about UBI. And I
Yes.
do at this point, I just very quickly wanna give a shout out to, our MP, here, Mike Morris,
Yep.
who, recently has pushed, our prime minister to, put forth legislation for, people with disabilities, and giving us the urgent support that we do need. So I do want to shout him out as well
Yeah.
for helping us and things as well. So there are leaders in our system currently who are pushing for change.
Hmm.
Right now, unfortunately, it's just a few pop-up voices here and there. I wrote one more name down, so sorry.
No,
I
take
want to
your time.
shout him out. Peter Julian,
Yep.
MP from BC,
Yep.
Burnaby South, I believe. So I want to kind of give him a big shout out as well for also bringing up our needs in a federal setting as well. Um,
You know what this tells
mhm,
me? This tells me that we need to have leadership that centers the most vulnerable and doesn't see their leadership as partisan. Like, just sees it
absolutely,
as, like, once the election is done, we have a job to do, and our job is to support
absolutely,
the people in our ridings, and the partisan part of it is literally, 3-4 week election. That's where that can come out, and you propose all of your stuff. But once you're in there, your job is to lead with love, man. Your job is
absolutely.
to center people and their needs. So, thank you for those shout outs, and thank you to all of those people that were just shouted out, because the work that you're doing is resonating. Like, it doesn't matter if you're doing it over there across the way or if you're doing it right here in our community. The point is that it is in fact resonating and we are seeing it. And that's the kind of leadership that we need. So I'm going to
Absolutely,
jump us to one other question before
for
I let you
sure.
go to carry on with your day. But my question is this: in a perfect world where everything was addressed,
Mhm.
right? What would that look like? Like, I always like to end off these little discussions with something positive, and I
Sure.
so believe that we speak the word, like, we can speak the joy that we want into being. We can create what we need as long as we have a clear vision of what we're aiming for. So in that perfect world, talk to me about what it would look like.
Well, I'm a bit of a nerd, so I am gonna kind of approach this sort of from my Star Trek roots.
Yes.
It's just everything for the greater good of everyone.
Mm,
As simply as I can put it, that's where it is. Um,
yep.
if I struggle with certain things mentally, somebody else can pick up that slack and I fill in somewhere else. If
Yep.
somebody has a physical ailment and they're not able to do much, well, they who are we to deny them dignity because of something out of their control?
Yeah.
So for me, in my perfect a utopian world, it's everyone for the greater good of everyone, and of course, there's going to be um, uh, uh, disparities in wages and things like that.
Yep.
I'm not going as far as anything remotely that's far left, but um, something where I am not looked down on and shunned
Yeah.
because I wasn't able to work the 3 jobs I was working before I had my mental breakdown.
Yep.
Um, it's somebody who was in a car accident through no fault of their own is in a wheelchair, and we think lesser of them because they aren't able-bodied.
Hmm.
And, it's very, very disheartening for us who are trying so desperately to I don't even wanna say fit in anymore. We're just trying to be and trying to
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah. That is okay, first off, that is a philosophical podcast. Like, literally, we just ended on existentialism, yo. That's what we did.
Absolutely.
That's where we are. So, it is about just trying to be in this world, in a way that helps to hold you with care and love and support. So, David, I'm gonna add to your vision, and I'm gonna say
Mhm.
this for all those that are out there that are in these positions. Um, in order for us to lead with love, you have to take some time to listen to people who will not enjoy every decision that you have made. And it is okay that we don't always make the right decisions. What is not okay is not trying to fix it. And so
Absolutely.
I think it's really, really important. What I am taking from our conversation, David, is this. In order for me to be there for all of the people in my community and for my community to be there for everybody else, they need their basic needs met and they need to be treated with respect and dignity. You've said dignity a number of times, and it's important. Like,
Absolutely.
it's super important. They need to be taken seriously. They need to be provided with an opportunity to just speak their truth, and they need to be able to dream about a world that is better, about a world that does listen, a world that does hold them, a world that does hold the family around them, and a world that allows them to feel all the feels when they need to, and doesn't turn around and blame them for stuff, but instead just loves them with every ounce of their being. And so, David, my commitment to you is this, and my commitment to all of y'all that are watching is this. I promise, I promise, I promise that that is the kind of leadership that I will demonstrate with every tool that I have, because I think that that's the only thing that's going to carry me through, and I think that you deserve nothing less than that, David.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and people in my community do as well. Um, we feel, like I said before, we do feel very left behind by a lot
Yeah.
of people. So to have even one voice standing up for us in Queens Park and Parliament Hill is so very, very important into giving us hope. And for that, I thank you very much.
Oh, it's a love fest in my philosophical podcast today. It
Absolutely.
is a love fest. Okay, folks, you have just witnessed me and my new bestie, David, having a philosophical discussion about some of these bigger gaps in our system. I am so, so grateful to you, David, for taking some time to chat with me. I'm grateful to all of the folks out there who are watching. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please keep these conversations going. If anybody is ever interested in doing some of the advocacy work alongside all of this, just reach out to my office. We've got petitions that people can sign and send in. We've got ways that we can keep these conversations going. We have to do more than talk. We have to turn it into action. But to be honest, none of that is going to happen unless people keep fighting alongside each other. And we can do this. We got this.
We
We
got
got
this.
this. We got this. Okay, folks, have an amazing time. Thank you again for sharing some space with me, and I'm sending lots of love into the universe. Bye bye.
Bye bye.